Welcome back to the Competitor Talk. This is your host, Kyle Dangler. This podcast is presented by Ladder Creative Works, and today we're going to have on Dodgers prospect flamethrower, Josiah Gray. Now, Josiah was originally drafted by the Reds, and he went over to the Dodgers in the trade with Yasiel Puig, Alex Wood, and in return, the Reds gave up Josiah Gray, Jeter Downs, and a few other players. So here he's coming on the phone right now, so we'll get going. Hey, Josiah.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, yeah. Thanks for coming on the show. Welcome. If you're ready to get going, we'll just get going.
Absolutely. Can you hear me pretty good?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
Awesome. Yeah, so, just something that I was curious about, before we get into, the nitty-gritty stuff about your career. Just curious, being from New York, kind of, in the northeast kind of the region, there's a lot of perceptions on, ball players from that area. Just, we're located in New Jersey, and just being from New York, there's always that skepticism of, they don't get to play full year round, there's always that perception of, what if, a lot of the South players, get more credit when it comes to college recruiting and even the draft. And then just for you, guys like you, Rick Parcello, you see Mike Trout, Todd Frazier, just guys from around the area. I mean, why do you feel that there's that perception other than just the weather factor, or do you think that's the main part of it?
Yeah, I would say that's probably the main part, just because, we aren't out there the whole year round playing on the field. So, there's always like that raw element to coming out of the Northeast or anywhere in the States that's, a cold weather spot. But I think that also is a testament to, if these guys are putting in the work and, producing within the 3 to 6 months, that they have warm weather, that shows some promise for the future. So I think, Northeast guys or cold weather guys will always be guys that are kind of looked at as a little bit raw just because they haven't played that much. But I think it's just, you always have to get through that and show organizations and show people that, you can play ball just as well as the warm weather guys.
Yeah, definitely. So, going into, kind of your college career, playing D2 baseball, just curious, what for you personally, just kind of looking back on your career thus far, is kind of the main reason you think, you had to go to the D2 route and then, eventually get drafted by the Reds? I mean, was it just, a lack of, being aware of, how your body and mechanics were, and then, in college you adjusted and, became, a draft eligible player and eventually got drafted? I mean, what for you did you see was the biggest change in your overall development that's led you to this point?
Yeah, I think it was basically everything you just said, like coming out of the Northeast, and coming from a town that's not really known for baseball players. I didn't really get many looks out of high school. I was a decent high school baseball player. So, literally Lemoyne was my only offer. So I went up there and just started to just integrate, what we had as a college program and became more mature as a baseball player. And at that time, I was still a two-way guy. So, I was playing infield and pitching as well. And then just going through the maturation process of playing around bigger guys and just, enjoying the game more, I started to become a better baseball player. And that took me up until basically where I am now through my first full year of pro baseball, to where now, my career has kind of done a whole 360, and, I'm enjoying it with every day because, if things were to go as planned and, I was to follow the timeline that, Division II Northeast baseball players go through, I wouldn't really be in the shoes I'm at right now. So, I'm ever so grateful for the journey I've gone through already, and the journey I'll progressively go throughout my career.
Yeah, so speaking of, you just mentioned being a two-way player, throughout the beginning of college. Just for you, just noticing, that you were a shortstop and, pitched a little bit earlier on. And then, eventually, as you got older in your college career, you kind of transitioned more into a starting pitcher role permanently. For you, I mean, was it just something that, the coaches saw, kind of your raw talent with your arm and kind of wanted you to maybe go the path of just primarily being a pitcher? And, just doing that, was it hard for you to have to give up, playing the infield and, getting the chance to hit?
Yeah, it was definitely hard putting the bat down because, hitting is something that's ever so hard. But, I think what I really enjoyed about hitting was the grind to try and be the best hitter you can be. So it's really hard to just eliminate that part of my game. But then, going out basically after my sophomore year, I got invited out to the Cod League and played with the Chatham Anglers. And, from there, I kind of I kind of saw what I was blessed with in my journey to pro baseball. Was going to be on the mound. I was throwing a lot harder and getting guys out that were playing at prestigious Division I schools. So just in having that knowledge in the back of my mind, that kind of propelled me into my junior year to where I, was confident into where I knew I could get hitters out with my stuff on the mound. And getting drafted to the Reds, that just, that made my belief that much more reality because, now I still miss hitting, but, pitching is my calling now. And, I'm going to do that every fifth day and give it all I got.
Now, were you recruited to Lemoyne as a two-way player, just a shortstop? I mean, how did you go throughout that? I mean, did you transition? Were you just kind of a pitcher here and there in high school? Just how did it go for you?
Yeah, so I was a two-way player in high school. Got recruited as a two-way guy.
Okay.
In high school, I was our starting shortstop and number one pitcher my junior and senior year. So, the head coach at Lemoyne, Scott Cassie, he knew I could do both, and so he recruited me to do both. And my first 2 years, was more so being an infielder because, we had a big senior class my freshman year. So, sophomore year, I was going to jump right in and get into the mix and be the shortstop, which I did. But then obviously things changed around a little bit once, I started to progress a little bit more on the mound. And then that sophomore year summer, that's kind of when things switched around. And then my junior year was my first full year pitching and, got drafted and here I am now.
Yeah, so going, through the process of the Cape Cod League, just for you, because, having other players on the show thus far that have been in the Cape Cod League, they always talk about, going back to college, that gain of confidence that they get just from playing with all the, best players around the country. For you, playing at Lemoyne, playing D2 baseball, jumping to, playing against some of the best players, D2 or D1, for you, getting that experience, how much more confident were you going back to Lemoyne your junior year to pitch, and then obviously the numbers just jump off the charts after that experience?
Mm-hmm. I think it's just going out there. There's always a sense of doubt, at least for a smaller school guy, because you've had success against smaller school guys, but then it's like, all right, now I got to go face a guy that just played in the College World Series. So it's kind of like, am I really ready for this moment? But just going out there and having good outings and having a couple rough outings, I think it made me realize that, even though I'm from a small school and, I haven't been pitching at the highest level, I can still get these guys out. So that confidence and that knowledge just really propelled me to where I am today. And, it's kind of gone away from me now because, I know I have the stuff to get major league hitters out. So it's just continuing to refine it and, enjoy the process because, every outing isn't going to be the greatest, but just gaining that confidence back then is what's going to, propel me to where I am today and then so.
Yeah. So going, after college, obviously getting drafted by the Reds, having that experience of, kind of the business-like mentality just in the Cape Cod League where, playing every day, being on more routine schedule, just solely based on, the game of baseball, going into your professional career, do you think that helps you have a sense of, just knowing the way that, professional goes about it rather than, balancing, say, school and baseball?
Yeah, I think going out there, it definitely makes you realize that, if you're going to play pro baseball, that it's just going to be baseball throughout your days, no school. So it really helps you focus on, the matter at hand, which is, baseball and producing on the field. Going and just transitioning to pro ball, that's what it is. You got to go out there whenever your name is called and, you got to produce. And it's just, that's your job at the time being. And if you want to be a big leaguer like everyone does, you have to focus on that and really put your mind on nothing but baseball. So that's kind of just the mentality that I was, adjusted to, and I think it's going good so far.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned before just kind of the lack of confidence that you had, going into the Cape Cod League, and obviously I'm sure you gained it, throughout that year and being back at Lemoyne for another year. But it's no secret that you've always had the velocity. But have you been adjusting your mechanics a lot just throughout the process of, being in college and, being in pro baseball? Has there been a lot of adjustments on that part, or is it just more of an adjustment with pitch selection? I mean, how's it been going for you to obviously being pitching at the highest level, just in pro baseball, but for you personally, I mean, is there a lot of adjustments that you make, or you just go more with the flow and go day by day?
Yeah, I would say I'm definitely a guy that goes with the flow and goes day by day. Just because in knowing me, I don't try to get too cute and too mechanical out there on the mound. That's kind of not the way I like to go about it, because I think pitching or baseball in general is hard enough, and if you're in your head 24/7, that just makes things a lot harder. So I just really try to stay out of my head, and of course I'm fine tuning things with pitches and sequencing and things like that, and everything that encompasses getting hitters out. But at the end of the day, I just try to keep it as simple as possible and just go out there and know that guy is not going to beat me at the plate. And if I have that mentality and that confidence to know that guy's not going to beat me, more times than not, I'll be successful. And that's what's going to help me. What's going to help the team. That'll help the organization. And, that's just my goal at the end of the day.
Yeah. So going, from college to obviously pro baseball, just, obviously just looking at your stats, being 11-0 with a 1.25 ERA, in D2 baseball, you knew, I'm sure that, you had the potential to get drafted, and you were going to get drafted based on those stats and based on the scouting reports. I'm sure, you always had that mindset after the season. But once it became a reality for you, I mean, can you take us through the process? I mean, how excited were you? Were you expecting to go to the Reds? I mean, was it something that they contacted you before and, had an interest in you? How did it go for you to get drafted?
It was a crazy time, just because obviously I had the interest going into that season, stemming from the previous summer and winters. I had a bunch of scout meetings, just so they could see what kind of player I am, what kind of person I am. So of course, once the season ended, we got knocked out in the regional round, but we had a great year, best year we've had in a while. So I was kind of just going with the flow with every day. I didn't really know where I was going to go. I knew every meeting I had went great. There was really no team that I knew was going to choose me, or a team I knew that really wanted me that bad. I think everyone was kind of even keel with it, keeping it under wraps. So, going into that day, I think I was just like, I just want to play pro baseball, and, whichever team takes me, takes me. And, the Reds, they actually weren't the team that kept in contact with me the most, but they did. They were one of the teams I met with in the early scout meeting process, and they called me right before and said, "Hey, we're going to take you." And I said, "All right, let's go. Let's do it." And they took me where they took me. That started my pro career that day.
Yeah. So, getting picked up by the Reds, obviously, I'm sure for you, having that, mindset of, you're going to be a Red, you weren't even a Cincinnati Red for, entire year, because in that December, getting traded, I mean, obviously for you, I'm sure, it was kind of a shock just because, it was just such a short time, being in pro baseball and being in such a blockbuster trade, right around the Christmas and, the New Year time for you. I mean, just hearing that news and realizing that you're going to have to go to a new organization so quickly, I mean, was it a hard adjustment for you to have to go and, be in a new organization, so early on in a career?
It's definitely a shock, just because, you never really think of, I can be involved in a trade this early. This organization just drafted me, and it's more or less like, okay, like I understand there's a business side, but I think there's always like all right, we just drafted this guy. I think we want to give him a shot or two before we ship him out. So just having to deal with that early on, and that was actually my birthday too, my 21st birthday.
Oh wow!
The day I got traded. Yeah, so it kind of was. It was just definitely a shock, but I just took it with a grain of salt, and took it as another day. Like, hey, I know the Dodgers are really interested in me during the draft, so I was like, okay. Great organization. I knew a couple guys in the organization. They said nothing but good things. I was really excited for the opportunity and ready to get to work. not with Cincinnati Reds, but now with the Dodgers. So it was all a process, and I know it's the business side of things. So I'm not surprised it happened so early, but it's also something that keeps you intact with reality.
Yeah, so getting that vote of confidence, from the Dodgers, just, giving up such highly touted players on their side, Yasiel Puig, Matt Kemp, a few other guys like Alex Wood, Kyle Farmer. For you, being in that trade so young in your career and getting that vote of confidence that, you were one of the 3 players the Dodgers wanted in the trade, was that something that gave you a little extra confidence going into that locker room, knowing that they wanted you, and were willing to give up a heavy price for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in trying to analyze trades and just knowing baseball as I do, you always want to be, if you're going to be traded, you always want to get traded for a big leaguer. And if it's a big leaguer, you want it to be a high-profile guy because that'll show how much that organization values you. So yeah, I definitely felt good about it going to the Dodgers, and that you just don't trade a guy like Yasiel Puig and Alex Wood for nothing. So I really appreciated that out of them, and I think just going out there and getting to meet everyone in spring training, I really felt that sense of community and that they did value me as a player and as a person. So that just made me feel welcome, right off the bat.
Yeah, so, going from the Reds, obviously, they were struggling just for, trying to reach the playoffs the past few years. But walking into that Dodger locker room for spring training, this year, being with around all those guys, having that organization that's been to the past 2 World Series and potentially going next year. Obviously, there's that mindset of, win or go home, kind of, we want to make the World Series and, win it. Going into the locker room with such high expectations, was that something that, you embraced, being a part of that rather than, being a team that was maybe trying to rebuild in a sense?
Yeah, straight from day one, I felt that culture, that winning culture. There was a meeting we had early on in spring training, and they were said, we're here to develop, but we're also here to win. And I think playing in 3 levels, that definitely was shown in that we have the talent, and we want you guys to become the best players you can be, so you can develop into big leaguers. But also, we want a ring, and I think having that sense of mentality really inspired me to know that, hey, I'm going to become the best pitcher I can be, but I'm also going to win. And, that winning culture you start down in the minor leagues is what's going to take it to the big leagues. And, you see the Dodgers making X amount of playoff appearances every year, but you understand why it's happening to an organization like them, because they established that winning culture down in the minors, and it's brought up through the majors, and things just go smoothly with the transition.
Yeah, so going, starting off in Single A, then going to Single A Advance and Double A, being in 3 different levels, like you mentioned, getting through all those levels so quickly on, especially in your career, and performing at all those levels too is definitely, I'm sure, important for you. But getting that, kind of sense of, knowing that you can do it at each level that you've been to so far. I mean, how much does that help you, going into this upcoming year, with higher expectations, I'm sure, from you and the organization, keep on improving and, keep on going up the levels?
I just think it gives them, a sense of, all right, we know this guy can do it at these levels, so we want him to continue to do that, but we also want to challenge him. And I think in seeing that in me, I definitely am ready for the challenge, whether it's whatever they do with me, I'll definitely be up for the challenge. And I think they know that what I can do and what I can help the organization with. So it's just, taking every 5th day and going out there with my best stuff, and being the confident pitcher I can be. So I really just try not to think about all the behind the scenes work, and just go out there and do what I have to do to make the team win at the end of the day.
Yeah, so getting, to go through all those levels, just curious for you personally, because we've had guys that, have jumped up levels pretty quickly, like yourself thus far. But for you, being traded, going into a different clubhouse, I'm sure, is different than, going up a level in a specific organization. For you, going through all those levels and not really establishing yourself, just because I'm sure, once you get comfortable at a place, I'm sure, going to a different level for you is sure hard, having to meet new teammates, meet new coaches. But for you, how did you kind of, stay humble and just, kind of go through the process without kind of overthinking, just being in all these different clubhouses and all these different places in just one short year?
Yeah, I think in just going to every new clubhouse, I didn't really know too many guys, but in just playing baseball, you eventually make friends with guys pretty quickly. So that helped me, every day to just know that guys are pulling for me, even though I don't know them that well. But of course, I start to know more and more, and of course, that keeps me to be the same person I'm always going to be. I'll be that guy that's pulling for everyone. So that's just something I adapted to. Of course, I spent a month in Great Lakes and 2 months in Rancho and then 2 months in Tulsa. But I think even if I was to spend a couple days at each spot, I think I'd be embraced by my teammates, and that's something I really respected within the organization, because not even being in the organization for 3 months, guys are accepting me, and they're rooting for me to do my thing. So I think that goes a long way into really embracing what this organization puts out there on the field.
Yeah, definitely. So something I just wanted to ask you, as we're kind of coming to the end, I wanted to ask you, because we've had MLB players, minor league players, just everyone from every kind of level thus far. But for you, you're the first guy that we've talked to just at this far that has won minor league pitcher of the year in an organization. Just for you getting that honor from the Dodgers, I mean, were you expecting it? After seeing the year in full completion and getting that award, I mean, how humbling and grateful were you for that? To get that vote of confidence, even more so by getting that type of award from an organization like the Dodgers.
Oh yeah, that getting that award and finding out I was getting that award was kind of just like a whole shock to me. Obviously, I knew I had a great year, and a year I never really expected to have. Obviously, jumping 2 levels, 3 levels, but I think just in having the organization, present this to me when I'm sure there are plenty of other guys, Dustin May or Tony Johnson, who are making real impacts at the big leagues right now. And to award me with that, I think it shows them, that we can really, really use this guy in the soon. So I think just getting that award and being taken care of by the Dodgers and all the player development staff, I think it was a really nice gesture for them, and that'll be something I'll never forget, because if I never amount to anything, I can always say I was a 2019 Dodgers minor league pitcher of the year. But I'm not satisfied with just that goal. I want to make an impact with the big leagues, and I want to do great things with those guys up there. But 2019 was a great year, and it'll be a year I really lean on. If confidence lags or something like that, but it's a year I'm gonna appreciate. But I want 2020 to be the best year yet, and get to the big leagues and stay there and help these guys win a World Series.
Yeah, so just speaking, about, trying to make the major leagues and, not satisfied, just with being the minor league pitcher of the year, looking, I'm sure, 2019 just ended, but looking, I'm sure, for you, trying to improve yourself for 2020 with all the expectations, I'm sure that's going to be surrounding, the Dodger organization and yourself after getting, the highest award that a minor league pitcher can get in an organization. What are you planning on kind of, refining and just improving on, looking into spring training next year? I mean, what kind of things are you looking at to keep on improving and hopefully make that impact at the major league level either next year or whenever you get the opportunity, hopefully?
Yeah, just waiting for that opportunity, really. But I just want just refine everything. I think in being a pitcher, you always want to just make sure you're refining everything and leaning on all your strengths and adjusting to all your weaknesses as soon as you start throwing and start working out. So it'll be something as simple as refining my off speed and continuing to work on my fastball command and going from there. But also the little things such as like controlling the run game and making sure you're switching up looks and thinking of situations where you can use the pitch or a certain sequence to get a hitter out, and looking at heat maps. There's so many things that are going to go into the preparation for next year. But that I think, like I said before, I just want to keep it simple. But I also want to be ready for spring training next year, whether minor league or big league spring training, and go out there with a vengeance and show them I could have another great year.
Definitely. So just something I wanted to ask you, just kind of with the evolution of technology in the game of baseball, for you personally, are you someone who watches a lot of, film on your mechanics or film on batters before a game? Or do you just, I know you mentioned you go with the flow a lot, but I mean, is it something that you look at, you mentioned, heat maps or, just, hot charts and, cold zones for players. Are you someone who does that in between innings or before a game? Or do you just kind of more of, feel what you have throwing, a bullpen before a game and just kind of feed off of that?
Yeah, and just adjusting throughout this whole full season. I started off watching a lot of film, but then as the year progressed, time got shorter. So I honestly just would look at scouting reports and heat maps, and that would suffice for me, and that would give me a game plan how to attack a hitter whenever he came up to the plate. So I really wouldn't look at film. Of course, I would use the data, such as like Rapsoda or TrackMan, all that Bible stuff. That really helps guys become the best pitcher they can be. So I think in just finding and adapting throughout the year, that's really what helped me have the year ahead, because all that technology is at your fingertips now, and the Dodgers are an organization that encourage us to use it. So I think in just finding that nice balance for me is what really helped me and will help me in the future.
Yeah, so speaking, just kind of coming towards the end, I wanted to ask you, kind of just about your future, because obviously with the expectations that I'm sure, you're personally going to have for yourself, and, just kind of the buzzworthy news around you after winning such a high award. I mean, just for you personally, obviously you mentioned, as I keep on mentioning, you mentioned you always go with the flow kind of guy, but is there any expectation in your head of when you want to, maybe get up to the major league level? Is there any timetable that, you're hoping for? Obviously, things can happen, but go either way, be quicker or slower. But just for you personally, is there any timetable that, you're looking at where you're kind of, this would be kind of, the expected time in your head to make the major leagues?
No, I just really want to, stay healthy and continue to produce out there on the mound. And, whenever they see I'm ready to go up there and make an impact and do what I have to do, I'll know I'll be ready. I don't really want to put a timetable on it, just because I know that can kind of bite you in the butt, when it's time to, put up or shut up. So, I just want to go out there every fifth day and do what I have to do, and, and leave all that behind the scenes stuff to, all the guys that take care of that, and just not try to think about it too much, because, being a guy that's not trying to be in his head as much, I just want to go out there and be confident on the mound and be the guy that, the team can lean on every fifth day.
Definitely. So, just, getting away from, the baseball, specific side of things, I just wanted to ask you, 3 questions, kind of off the baseball side of things for you. Yep. Just number one is, any hobbies or anything that, you're looking forward to, in the off season, or just, in general, to get away from baseball, just because, playing it all the time, I'm sure there's moments where you need to get away from it. Anything you do in specific for a hobby or just kind of activities?
Not too many activities, honestly. I like to travel, and I think that just stems from being a baseball player. I've been in 3 parts of the country this year, so I'm starting to try and travel more and see a lot more things. And I really enjoy playing MLB The Show. That's probably the biggest thing I do besides playing baseball. Listen to music.
Now, are you a big Diamond Dynasty guy, or are you kind of more Road to the Show? I mean, what's kind of your thing in that?
Diamond Dynasty, I'll live or die for Diamond Dynasty. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're not going to disagree with you on that.
But yeah, honestly, other than that, I read a little bit, but I try to, just take the mind off baseball for a couple weeks, and try to reset, and then pick it right up and put the foot on the pedal, and get ready for next year.
When just curious, when are you kind of gonna get back in the swing of things? Obviously, you need to rest with your body, but is there November, mid-November, after Thanksgiving? I mean, when's kind of when you start picking up things a little quicker and faster?
I think that'll be within the next week or two.
All right.
The Dodgers are really big, and getting in early and starting your stuff early so you can be ready for a long year. And I think I'm going to adapt to that program now, and go with the flow, and it'll help me stay healthy throughout the year. So not too much of a rest, but that's a part of it. And if you want to be a big leaguer, you have to deal with the recommendations that people have, and go with the flow in that regard.
Definitely. So question number 2 that we just had for you is, thus far in your career, favorite baseball moment, whether it be, high school, being, middle school, college, pro ball. I mean, what's kind of that one moment where you kind of sticks out, whether, winning something or, just making a cool play? I mean, what's the thing that, keeps you, kind of in your youth?
Man, I would say junior year, obviously in college at Lemoyne, we hadn't made an NCAA appearance since 2012, and we had a couple years. We were the independent Division I program, and then in 2012 we turned into D2. So 2018, we had a great year. I think we won close to 40 games, if not more than that. I was the ace in that thing. We ended up winning the game, I think 3-2, and just ending that game with a strikeout, a complete game, ending the game with a strikeout. I think that was probably my most proud baseball moment, just knowing, this team, we really had something going, and just to feel that dominant on the mound, I think it just really gave me something to root for, and my adrenaline was on 100 that day, and that's probably my favorite baseball moment as of now. And of course, I'm going to make better moments here in pro ball.
Yeah.
So I'm really stuck on that one right now.
Definitely awesome to hear that. Having that moment, I'm sure in college is definitely going to definitely link you to I'm sure your teammates of the past. Final thing we just wanted to ask you is, are you going to be watching the Dodgers tonight in the postseason?
Oh yeah, of course. I'm going to try and watch every game this postseason, no matter what team, but obviously, of course, the Dodgers. Just because I want to be there as soon as possible. Awesome.
Yeah. So it was great to talk to you. Just to hear some of your cool stories thus far. We wish you the best of luck. Obviously, you've pitched extreme high level thus far in pro ball and even college. So, we wish you the best, Josiah. Thanks for coming on the show, and we look forward to seeing what you do in 2020 and beyond.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Yeah. So have a good rest of your day. Hopefully we see you. Just back on the field in 2020. Looking even better.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
Bye. Yeah, so that was Josiah Gray, Los Angeles Dodgers 2019 Minor League Pitcher of the Year. Is currently ranked number 75 in the top 100 prospects of all of baseball. He's the number 4 Dodger prospect. Just getting to talk to him was definitely cool. Someone who can be, playing in the postseason next year with just some of the Dodgers just being one of the best pitchers in the organization. So it's definitely someone to look out for. Was in that big blockbuster trade just playing there last December with, on his 21st birthday, as he mentioned, being in that trade with Yasiel Puig. Just other guys like Matt Kemp, Alex Wood, Kyle Farmer, who was one of their best prospects, the Dodgers, and, getting Josiah and, a couple other key guys is definitely cool to see that vote of confidence in him. So, we thank Josiah for coming on, looking forward to seeing what he does in his future, in his career. Hopefully, he makes the major leagues and we can get him back on the show. That would be pretty cool. But overall, just, great to have him on, great to hear his story, and, it's definitely someone that you should all look out for. And, just thanks for listening to us. We appreciate it as always, and have a good rest of your day.